everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood podcast. I'm Jeanette Anderson. I am here with the bodacious one and only Lindsay Sullivan. And today we're going to be talking about brand imagery and especially how do you do that using AI, as well as just how do you look good in photos and how do you use images to really support your brand and all sorts of other topics, wherever we go and whatever we talk about. So welcome. I'm glad that you guys are here. I know that you can listen to lots of different podcasts on entrepreneurship, and this is, of course, the very best one. But at least we're endeavoring to do that and be that. If you have suggestions, feedback, or questions, please put them in the comments below on the Facebook group where we're going live, or also in the podcast chats. I'd love to have your reviews, love to have your thoughts. And if you have specific topics or speakers that you would like to hear, let me know and we will hunt them down and get them for you. All right, so welcome, Lindsay. I'm glad you're here. And as usual, I'm going to tell you the official info on Lindsay, and then we'll just dive in with the real life person. All right, so welcome. You're in Calgary, right?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today, Jeanette.
Awesome. I am often in Calgary, except not right now because it's winter and I'm allergic to winter. So I'm down in Orlando, Florida right now, but I won't rub that in too much. All right. So let me tell you about Lindsay. As the visionary founder of the Small Business Photographer, Lindsay Sullivan combines her brand photography mastery with cutting edge AI image generation expertise. She is renowned for crafting captivating images that resonate with her clients' brands and communicate their brand stories. Lindsay's multifaceted training includes countless courses in brand photography, AI, visual storytelling, and digital marketing. Recognized the transformative potential of AI in marketing, Lindsay pioneered several workshops dedicated to helping entrepreneurs save time while enhancing their brand presence through custom AI imagery. A sought-after speaker and featured in entrepreneurial publications, Lindsay masters the intersection of brand photography, strategic marketing, and AI innovation. I love all that. That's so cool. And it's really interesting because really AI burst onto the scene less than 2 years ago. It was been around for 40 years, but it really just became more mainstream really a year ago. And yet it sounds like you've been doing this for quite a while, Lindsay. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I got into it last year with the AI stuff. It was just really interesting. Like the quality of the images you could create. I kind of discounted it before because the people didn't turn out well or just didn't look great. But then it got to the point where the quality was so good that I could actually see myself using it.
Yeah,
using it.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been at it since it became more usable. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more about you. What's something we wouldn't guess by reading your bio or your website or that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about me is that I'm a fantasy geek, and that actually influenced me getting into portrait photography, believe it or not. I started doing photos of cosplayers. They're people that dress up in these really cool costumes and they go to comic expos and things like that. And I just started taking pictures of them at these expos. And I had one of them who just loved her photo so much. She asked me to do a full session with her. And that's how I really got into doing portraiture. And I just love the whole storytelling aspect of it. Like we would have to figure out locations and poses and, all sorts of things that really fit that character. And so when it came to brand photography, that's another reason I like brand photography because you're also telling a story. So yeah.
Love it. That makes lots of sense. So tell me a little bit deeper. What is your why? Why do you do the work you do? So that's how you kind of came to it. But what's
Mhm.
your purpose in life? We like to ask
Yeah.
fluffy questions here on this podcast.
Nice. Yeah, a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is I really like helping people, feel more confident and realize they're photogenic. Because I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they hesitate to be visible. They don't want to be, visible for their business. They don't want to have photos on social media or even giving them to a podcast host. They cringe at the idea. I love helping change that. I love helping them realize that they're photogenic and get them gorgeous photos that they're excited to use for their marketing, for their social media, their websites, all sorts of different things. And then
Right.
from there, Yeah. And then from there, kind of transitioned into the storytelling side of things, which you can do with both brand photography and AI. So I just love helping people figure out what story to tell, regardless of the medium, and helping them, yeah, just help people get to know them and grow their business.
Okay, so it sounds like you're really a stand for people to be seen and
Mhm.
feel more confident in being seen and heard and recognized and valued. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you come to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so again, it was because of the portrait photography with cosplayers. I just started getting into, I experimented a lot with different types of photography, and then I started doing some of these portrait sessions with cosplayers. And one of them decided that she was going to get a big group of them together, and she wanted me to do this big shoot for them. And then she's like, "We're going to pay you." And I was like, "What?
What a notion.
This is cool." So yeah, so that's basically how I got into entrepreneurship. And then I started realizing that I was at that point where I was good enough to charge, and then started exploring the different kinds of photography, commercial photography, and that kind of thing. And I realized I really liked the brand photography because it, again, had that storytelling aspect. And myself too, I didn't have any good photos until I became a business owner. And I realized, well, I'm a photographer. I need good photos. So I ended up dragging my feet, but I went and got good photos, and I realized like it was almost transformational for me because I'd never had a good photo. I'd never felt photogenic. And so when I had these amazing photos, it was, like it was really easy to actually give photos, to people for podcast, episodes or for social media. I was actually excited to share them and be visible. And I thought, I want to do that for other people too, and help them grow their business with photos. So yeah.
Awesome. I like that. And there are a lot of people who are very self-conscious. I was for a very, very, very long time. And then finally I just decided to get over myself because of course the more self-conscious, the less good the photos are. And then what actually also helped it a little bit is I went and got some work done on my teeth, and then I was less self-conscious about
Mm,
smiling. But mostly I
nice.
got older and I decided to, like F it. It was just ridiculous to see about it. Excuse me. So tell me, what do you mean by brand photography? What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so to me, brand photography are photos that really help people get to know the business. They get to know who's behind the business, what they're all about, what their personality is like. So it's really good for service providers, for example, because people are coming to them for services and they want to know who they're going to be working with. But it's
Mhm.
also good for behind the scenes, for helping people imagine what it's like to work with you. It can be portraiture that shows your personality. I sometimes have people coming to me because their previous photos were just very generic, kind of stuffy, but that's not their personality. That's not who they are. And there was a disconnect. And so with the brand photography, you're really bringing out their personality, their essence, and helping people get to know who they are. And so, yeah, so that's what I see with brand photography. But you can also use it to illustrate, pain points your clients experience. That's where maybe some of the stock photography and AI photography comes in well, because you can have an image to pair with like a caption on your social media. Like, let's say for me, for example, I save people time, by teaching them how to create their own images. They don't have to spend all this time searching stock sites. And
Mhm.
so I can use a little clock, like a little alarm clock. On my background here, I've got a cute little alarm clock, and
Yep.
I can pair that with a post talking about how I save them time. So if you can figure out, well, what are the pain points you solve for clients? How do they feel before working with you? How do they feel after working with you? You can communicate a lot of that with images and pair it with your messaging. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that's a really cool background that you have because it's got lots of mood and cohesion to it, and it's very interesting
Mhm.
to see some great examples. So what's the biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make when they're using their photos, let's say on their website or in their speaker one sheets if they have one of those, or just like you said, to send out for if you're going to be on a podcast, or even just on their website, they've got an about us photo. What's one of the biggest mistakes
Yeah.
people make?
I'd say not getting a good quality photo and one that really shows their personality, where they've relaxed, that authentic smiles come out, it's really them. I find a lot of people just take some selfies, because a lot of them don't know photography, lighting, or composition. They end up taking ones that look a bit amateurish, which gives an amateur vibe to their brand, right? And it doesn't give a cohesive look either. A lot of times they have different tones, color tones, and different mood, and all of those kinds of things spread out across their website and social media, and they get a lack of cohesion, which also gives that amateur look as
Mhm.
well. So
Mm.
yeah.
Well, and so what are some keys to actually taking, we'll get to the AI in just a minute, but what are some keys to
Mhm.
taking better photos? Because a lot of people, like, we said, are quite self-conscious. They're a little awkward about
Mhm.
it. And like I just went and got some done at a local photography place, and it was very standard kinds of things, the here's the box, lean on the box, and that kind of stuff. Not a lot of personality, like you said, because it was a very
Mhm.
standard kind of studio shoot. What what would you say is a great way, or what are some tips for taking better photos?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things. Like there's the whole lighting side of things, so getting some good lighting. So being by, a nice big window, for example, with giving you some nice soft light, of trying to avoid direct sunlight where you get that really harsh light and you just get shadows under your eyes and it's really harsh. You want to avoid that. So maybe going into the shade or picking a better time of day. Like there's something called golden hour, which is, about 2 hours before sunset. And so you could get some photos there with lights a little softer and that sort of thing. But I think another problem too people have is they don't know what kind of story to tell. So they go with the generic on the box, kind of images. So I think understanding what kind of photos to create can be really helpful. And if you are hiring a photographer for your business to take photos of you, having them do some strategy and figuring out what kind of photos can really tell your story, what kind of location speaks to what you do, what kind of props can you add in? Can you add in a laptop, or can you add in a camera, or flowers in your brand color, or something about your personal brand that helps people get to know you? So are there things you can add in that tell the story? All of those kinds of things. I think it's really good to have some advice if you're not really familiar with that area, on
Mm.
what kind of photos to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how would you advise people go about finding photographers? Because a lot of times it's who's happens to be handy. Sometimes it's who do
Mhm.
you know, but even you might know someone and they might not be the right person. So, what are some criteria you would tell people to look for if they're going to hire someone to take pictures for them or of them?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things is what is their portfolio like? So you can check out their social media on their website and get a feel for what the images are like. Do the people look like they're relaxed and getting good authentic expressions, or they look awkward and stiff? Like how
Yeah.
do the images look? And then also kind of looking at their, maybe they have blogs talking about, brand photography. They have tips and things like that they share, just things that help that they understand brand photography. Because a lot of photographers out there, they add brand photography on as kind of an add-on when they're quiet during wedding season, so which
Mhm.
isn't a bad thing, but it's just they may not have the expertise that you want, right? So you want to go with someone who's a little more specialized, who really understands branding and what kind of photos would communicate your story and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about AI and AI photography.
Mm-hmm.
Tell people who haven't seen it or done it yet what that is and how it works a little bit. I mean, it's besides it's magic.
Yeah, I'd say there's two types. There's one type that a lot of people think of, and that's using AI to edit. And so there's some really awesome AIs out there that can really edit things really nicely once you've taken a photo. But mostly what I'm talking about when it comes to AI image creation is actually just entering a text prompt into an AI image generator, like Midjourney AI, for example, and it'll generate a picture for you. So, for example, one of the ones in my background here is a woman with a laptop. And so for that, it would be something like, a photo of a woman sitting at a desk by a big window, natural light, laptop in front of her, teal colors, because that's my brand color, and smiling and that sort of thing. And so you enter that all as a text prompt into the AI and it spits back an image. So it is like magic, like you
Yes,
mentioned.
it is. And I was playing with it for the very first time a couple days ago because I was trying to get a core image for an event that I'm doing. And I
Nice.
could not get it to collaborate with me properly because I tried so many different kinds of prompts because I wanted a distinguished, older, tall, a black gentleman with an older, either Asian or Native American or white woman, but wearing a bright silk top and sophisticated and business oriented and so forth. And it just couldn't seem to handle all the things at once, all the
Yeah.
different kinds of commands at once. But I couldn't
Hmm.
figure out, like I've used Chat GPT and I understand how to go, okay, this piece, now change, do this piece, now do this piece. But I couldn't figure out how to do that
Right.
with images, right? It just kept
Yeah.
generating whole new images that looked a lot like the last ones. And, this
Yeah.
that one was good and that piece from that one, but I couldn't figure out how to get them together. So
Yeah.
there's obviously an art and a science to it. 'Cause
Hmm.
so how similar is it to using something like ChatGPT or a regular AI text tool?
Yeah. So I'd say it depends which one you're using. Which one were you using? Just out of
I have
curiosity.
no idea.
Okay. No worries.
I know there was one in it was a stock photography one, maybe Vex, might have
Oh,
been
okay.
iStock, something like
Okay.
that, one of those two.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so I'd say part of the challenge is using a good image generator. So a lot of the ones that have come out, they're very basic. You can't refine them. You just enter your prompt and that's what you've got. So there is no refining, there is no customizing. So if you want to actually have those capabilities, you want to use an AI that has that ability, something like Midjourney AI. So for that one, you can enter your prompt, but you can go in and revise it. So you can be like, oh, well, actually, I don't want an orange top. I want a purple top. And you can actually go in and it'll change that for you. I've actually had one too where it changes like regional areas. So if you had, say, a podcast mic and you want to change that to a glass of water, it can do that. You just select the podcast mic and instead of putting a podcast mic, you just change it to a glass of water. So it
Cool.
has a lot more customization and there's all sorts of different commands you can use to tailor it as well. So I'd say quality AI is one of the things that you want. But then the other thing is sometimes we can make it a little too complicated. Chat GPT likes a lot of text, but these image generating AIs, they like it simpler. So trying to like see how you can condense it and then don't make it confused by saying, maybe I want it, an Asian woman or North, like if you ask for or, it's not going to
Yeah.
understand that. So
Yeah.
you might want to just stick to one nationality and then say I want like an Asian woman that's middle aged, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
couple things you can do there.
Give it options. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
What's the kind of current status of legalities around all of this? Because one of the things with stock photography, obviously, or
Mhm.
using a photographer's pictures, is you have to give accreditation and you have to pay for use of it and so forth. Are these all completely royalty free? What's the situation around usage and legalities?
I would say you're going to want to check the legal agreement of each one because they're not going to be the same. Midjourney, for example, allows you to use them however you want as long as you have a paid subscription. So I have the basic plan, which is like $10 a month, and you can use them however you want in your marketing. You can sell the images if you want. Like you have a wide usage that you're allowed to do. Noting too, though, that Midjourney also owns the image, so it's not just your image. Midjourney could use it as well.
Okay, so you can't get exclusive rights to an image then.
Exactly. They do
Ooh.
have an option they call stealth mode, and so if you pay extra per month, then they wouldn't use your image and they wouldn't post it on their main site. But
Yeah.
theoretically, they would still own it. But they're basically saying no one's going to see it. So you have that option. If you really wanted the exclusivity, you could get a little closer to that by using stealth mode, but it's a little more expensive. Not
So
usually necessary.
are there advantages or disadvantages to using stock photography versus AI generated photography?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think some of the biggest benefits to the AI is that it's just much easier to get images that are in your head onto like your screen, because you can specify a particular aspect ratio. 'Cause I don't know about you, but a lot of times you finally find an image you like on the stock site, but then it's like a vertical image and it just does not crop well for a long, wide, website banner, you know.
Yep.
And so you can actually create tell it to create a certain aspect ratio. You can ask it for all the images to be in your brand colors, which is also super helpful. Because again, that's another issue you find with stock sites is it might be a good image, but it might not fit the mood or brand colors. You can also ask for particular people. You were saying you wanted a distinguished, say Black man and middle age, that kind of thing. You can ask for that. Yeah, and just like it can be a lot easier to create the images and customize them than it can be to try to find them on stock sites. So it can be just a little bit frustrating and time consuming if you're using
Well,
stock.
and obviously quite a bit cheaper too, because when I, had an iStock photo or Adobe stock photo subscriptions, they tend to be somewhere around $35 a month, which if you're using a lot of pictures in your websites and marketing materials and so forth is not so bad, but it adds up quite a bit. So $10 for unlimited pictures is a really good thing.
It is, yes.
Is there anything in terms of any issues with, like, for instance, if you write a book using AI assistance, you have to let publishers know that, and you have to kind of out yourself around it. Is there anything around that in terms of it's frowned upon from SEO perspective, or does it have a negative impact at all if you're using AI images in your, like, does it have any impact on your SEO or your searchability or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I haven't heard of it impacting SEO at all. It's just like a regular, it saves as a PNG file, and you can also convert it to JPEG and stuff like that. I think, depending on the quality of the AI, sometimes you can tell just because if you don't know some of the tricks to making it more photorealistic, it might be a little obvious. Or if you're not paying attention, sometimes you can get like 6 fingers on the hand or like those kinds of things. So you have to kind of keep an eye on that when you're picking your photos. And Midjourney is much better than a lot of the other AIs. You don't get that as much, but it still happens. So you still have to be careful.
What are some of the tricks to making it more photorealistic?
Yeah, so I like to add in photography commands into the prompt. So for the first one, for example, saying a photo of, so a photo of a woman, a photo of a cat, a photo of. The first time I tried, I wanted to create a pony. So I wanted a photo. So I just put a pony, a gray pony, and it created a My Little Pony for me. It was just like this graphic, it was super cute. But I'm like, no, I want like a photo of a pony. I want a realistic pony, not a fake one. And so yeah, so you just add in a photo and that can help let it know that that's what it's looking for or what you're looking for. But you can also add things too, like I'll add on taken with a Nikon DSLR, for example, and that'll help it figure things out. And then you can also ask for certain things too, like a blurred background. Like, a lot of lovely portrait photos, they've got that, the person's in lovely focus, but then the background's that, soft focus kind of, bokeh they call it, where there's beautiful soft focus on the background. You can ask for that kind of stuff too, and that makes it look a little more photorealistic, like a professional photographer had taken it. Yeah, you can ask for all sorts of commands too. Like sometimes you could ask for like cinematic photo if you want kind of a dramatic.
Okay, cool. I love it. Okay. And you teach courses on this, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about those courses.
Yeah, so they cover a couple different components. The first part is visual storytelling because I find a lot of people don't know what images to create. They don't know what backgrounds to ask for, what people to put in the photos. So we cover a lot of that kind of stuff, how to evoke emotion with the photos, how to match them to your captions, how to make sure they're appealing to your ideal client, that kind of thing. So there's a visual storytelling component. Then I teach them how to set up Midjourney and all of the key settings, because the key settings can also influence whether you're getting an image that matches your prompt. Because like Midjourney is kind of like, you can kind of consider it like an intern or even like a temperamental artist, where you give it some instruction, but it's not necessarily going to give you exactly what you asked for. But there are settings that can make it where it's more likely to give you what you've asked for, or you're giving it more creative control depending on the settings.
So
yeah.
Key settings are those kind of like setting up your own chat GPT or your own GPT in chat GPT. Is it kind of like that where you set up a preset set of instructions?
Yeah, like they've got certain kinds of settings that, yeah. So it's not exactly like that. Like you're not saying, here's my brand color or things like that necessarily, but it's certain types of settings that help you, basically have a certain look with your images. And then also in the course too, I teach the prompting side of things, right? Because you were saying you've got this prompt and it's not really doing what I want it to do. So
Yep.
we talk all about that, some of the key ingredients, that go into a good prompt.
The prompts are really important and
Mm-hmm.
super important to what you get out, right? Garbage in.
Exactly.
And do you see this actually kind of replacing like CGI and things like that in films? Is it at a point
Mm.
yet you can create like short films? I'm thinking of like speaker reels or things like that.
Oh
Is it
wow.
at that
Yeah.
point?
I would say not yet. I've only dabbled in the video a little bit, but from what I can see, like it does things like, makes the clouds move. So you get motion in the image. But I tried to get it to create I had an image of a horse, like you would upload an image of a horse, for example, that's galloping, and I asked it to create movement in one of the AIs, and it could not do that. Like it couldn't create realistic movement. And that's not to say that there aren't others out there. My focus has been on more photography image, like the images as opposed to video and movement. But yeah, I think it could definitely influence and eventually be able to give you some great video. Now I think it's similar to brand photography though, like you still want images of yourself, right? So you still want someone to come in and get photos of you. Same thing with video. For a speaker reel, you're going to want to be speaking. So,
Yes, yeah,
you know, and they do actually have AIs that you can put your voice in that look like you, but it still sounds a bit robotic.
yeah,
So, you
yeah.
can still
Not,
tell.
yeah,
Yeah.
not quite there yet. So tell us about the courses and how can people find out more about them? Are they virtual online or live in Calgary?
Yeah, so they're virtual online. I previously had them live so that, I could really get a good feel for how people were, experiencing the content, where they had challenges and that sort of thing. But I'm now moving it so it's, a self-paced, do-it-yourself course, and that's going to be coming out on March 1st. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
I'm excited to be
So
launching that.
where would they go and to find out more about that?
Yeah, they can go to my website, which is thesmallbusinessphotographer.com.
Okay, the smallbusinessphotographer.com. And
Yes.
you've got a guide for people on this
Yes.
topic. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's just a little guide to help people get some ideas on kind of things they can add into their prompts and just kind of show them some of the key things to consider when creating their images with AI so they can create some really nice images.
All right. And it's called let me find it, 3 tips for creating stunning stock images using AI, right?
Yes,
That's great.
exactly.
Okay, we're going to put the link to that because it's not on your website, right?
It isn't, no.
So we're going to put the link to that. I'm just downloading it right now because I want it.
Okay, perfect.
On the platform. So look below and you'll find that, whether that's on Facebook or our YouTube channel or our podcast platforms, wherever you are listening from or watching, go to the notes below or beside, and you will see the link for that so that you can go and get those 3 tips. Thank you so much for all this information. It's really cool, and it's a fun and interesting new world out there that
It
we're
is.
discovering with the aid of AI, and it can do a lot of cool things. And it doesn't take the place of the creativity of a professional like yourself. It augments that. So yes,
Yes.
we create images and so forth, but there's still a lot to be said for going to someone like you who can help us with what is our story, what is that brand, how does that look, to add that creative element. AI can only do what we tell it to do. And so if you want the creativity, you got to get that out of someone else's brain, like Lindsay's. All right, Lindsay, so tell us one last thing you'd like to leave us with or leave people with in terms of a last piece of advice for them.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes AI can seem a bit scary, but not to be scared of it, to give it a try because trying new things is how we grow, and that can really set you apart from your competitors, is being willing to look into a lot of these different new things and see how you can adapt them and how they can make your life a lot easier with your business. So I really encourage people to step outside that comfort zone and give it a try and yeah, learn more about AI, whether it's ChatGPT or image creation or video, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And once you play with it, if you decide this is great, but I don't want to master this, because you do need to master anything that you're going to actually use
Mm.
professionally, then you can hire professionals like Lindsay to do that for you, because that's becoming a growing field. If you go to Fiverr, if you go to Upworks, or if you go to a professional in your local area, or look online for people like Lindsay who have been working with this for quite a while. And in this world, quite a while is a year or more,
Yeah.
um, and who can create those images for you that go with your brand. So you don't have to learn it all. You don't have to do it yourself. You can get help. We often talk here about lots of different ways to grow your business. And one of the biggest things that's important is to create support for yourself. So I've been talking to people a lot about this, and just had someone ask me, what's your support plan for growing your business this year? So if you don't have one, then create a support plan. Create a list of professionals that you need help with. And on that should probably be someone who can support you with up-leveling your brand. Someone like Lindsay, who can get you good images, who can make you feel like those are images you want to have people see, so that you can use it to up-level your brand. Thank you so much for being here, Lindsay. I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. It's awesome to have you come back again and again. So please subscribe to the show. Please leave your comments and or testimonials. We'd love to hear them. It helps us rise in the rankings. And that means that more of our sisters in the Purpose and Profit Sisterhood will find out about this podcast. Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll have a bodacious week. Bye for now.